Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Blue Line Blast Podcast. Jim Biringer, Matthew Blittner. It's going to be a jam-packed show, as it always is. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Matthew, welcome back. Another episode, another week. Here we are.
Great to be here, Jim. I think we're coming up on a milestone, aren't we? Aren't we right around our 20th episode?
Something like that. Yep, I believe so. We're hitting that mark. Milestone mark. Started it. Decided to do it. We just decided to do it. I love it. Great. By the way,
I just looked next week.
20 episodes next week. By the way, we just decided to do a great episode. The first episode of the newsroom. Just a great episode, great show. But we got a lot to dive into. A lot of hockey talk tonight, as always here. Maybe we'll sprinkle some things in and out. But we got to start down in Big D. No, we're not talking about the dysfunctional Dallas Cowboys. Forget them. We're starting with the Dallas Stars.
Might be a little dysfunctional there.
Maybe, but not as bad as the dysfunctional Dallas Cowboys run by Jerry Jones. However, Jerry Jones, AT&T Stadium, they're going to be hosting the 2027 Stadium Series game, February 20th, announced today by Jerry Jones, Gary Bettman there. Huge announcement for this team. Second outdoor game in history for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, no, look, it's huge news, and we do have confirmation. The roof will be open for that game,
yes.
Barring any, inclement weather. So fans, get ready to go to Dallas. Get your tickets ready for some barbecue. Get your tickets ready for Jerry's World. The whole 9 yards. Biggest stadium in terms of seating capacity, I believe, if I have that right. And the NHL is going to go big or go. It's going big or going home on this. They're going big, clearly. We don't know who the Dallas Stars are going to be playing. I have my suspicions on who they're going to play.
Me too.
And my suspicions begin with the Chicago Blackhawks.
That's not my suspicion.
Or with the Colorado Avalanche. But
bingo.
We'll see what happens there. And Jim, we're going to get into it in a few minutes. But now that the NHL is going to Jerry's World, I want, after you say your bit, I want to find out where we think the NHL should go for other, whether it's Winter Classic, Stadium Series, Heritage Classic, any of the variety of outdoor games that the NHL holds, where they should go next.
All right, so before we go into that, I got to say this. I think it's going to be the Colorado Avalanche. I think the storyline just writes itself. Mikko Rantanen, what happened in the playoffs, they're playoff rivals. They've been playoff rivals since the team moved from Minnesota to Dallas. Dallas kind of has their edge over the Colorado Avalanche in the playoffs. So I think it just writes itself. It makes sense. Colorado hasn't played in an outdoor game in a while. I think their last one might have been the Air Force game against LA, but they may have played in another one after that.
I know they played in the in Nevada.
Okay, so they did play in Nevada against, I believe, Vegas.
Yeah, Lake Tahoe. They played
the Lake Tahoe game. There were no fans there. I think the last game they've actually played with fans was their Air Force game. But I think it should be Colorado. I don't see it being Nashville again. I just don't see it. I think that was kind of a one-off. I think they like to bring rivalries into this, like we've seen when Chicago played against St. Louis at the Winter Classic last year at Wrigley. Though it could be Chicago, kind of would make sense, some young talent there. But it feels to me that it is Dallas, Colorado, unless they really throw a monkey wrench into this thing. Could be Utah, could be Vegas, something like that. That would kind of be cool to see there too.
Well, you got the rivalries part in. I mean, Chicago Chicago's been done to death playing outside, but they are an original 6 team, so you can see it, why the league goes there. I will say, for fans who maybe don't understand how teams are picked for the various outdoor games, I think we should give them a little bit of a brief right now. The Winter Classic can be any 2 teams in the NHL. The Stadium Series is almost always, there are some exceptions to the rule, almost always United States-based teams.
Yes.
And then the Heritage Classic is obviously Canadian-based teams.
Yes.
So fans out there, if you're wondering why we're not saying throwing with the Winnipeg Jets into the mix to face the Dallas Stars or anything, I mean, they obviously are division rivals. The Stadium Series is almost always between two United States-based franchises.
And another point on this, the Stadium Series usually is two in-division rivals too.
Yes, more often than not.
More often than not, right? Because last year we saw Columbus, Detroit, even though they're in two separate divisions, it's a kind of a border thing.
Yeah,
Ohio.
it's geographic right there.
Yeah, exactly. But as far as other places, I mean, the top of my list has always been West Point Military Academy, just because they did the other two, but I understand there needs to be renovations there. I think it would be a great location for a game. I got to imagine down the line they're going back to Buffalo for whenever the anniversary is of the first one, so 2028, when the new stadium is built for the Buffalo Sabres. I got to imagine they're going back there to recreate the first Winter Classic. Even if it's not Pittsburgh, I think the Buffalo Sabres will have an outdoor game. Other spots I'd like to see, I mean, obviously they're going to Florida now, so that's, we're going to see what happens here. Some warm weather places. I think, we should do another game up in Minnesota. That would be fun to see. Heritage Classic, obviously, got to do one in Montreal. Maybe out in, the Nova Scotia area would be fun. Me personally, I think they should go overseas and do one. I don't know about how you're feeling on this one, but I always
thoughts.
I've always heard, and there's been reports rumored for years now that, because of the language with the Canadians and France, maybe that would be a spot that they could play an outdoor game and bring the Montreal Canadiens over. And maybe, you never know. Steve Mayer, the president and, content of events for the NHL, had mentioned the potential of a global series outdoor game down the line, maybe. So we'll see what happens. But there's so many opportunities out there for these games to grow the game. It would be awesome to see wherever they went. And I think they need to do more college stadiums. I got to be honest. Got to do some more college stadiums.
Yeah, no, look, they absolutely do. And Jim, about 10 months ago, I actually wrote one of my number of articles on where the NHL should go for Stadium Series, Winter Classic, Heritage Classic, all that 9 yards. The various outdoor games. Jim, first and foremost, they gotta go to Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Absolutely,
okay. For frozen tundra, the absolute iconic background, the historic Lambeau Field. Everyone knows it's the frozen tundra. I mean, NFL playoff games are played there, and it's routinely -20. Okay, does that not scream hockey to you? Like, I used to picture hockey players coming out shirtless off the bus to go into Lambeau Field, and then being like, okay, you know what? Let's button up. Let's get going. Blocking shots you'd be a hero blocking shots in a game at Lambeau Field. Okay. The sound of the puck going off the goalie's pads or off the goalie's glove or off the post, forget about it. You'll be hearing that across state lines. Okay. Lambeau Field absolutely needs to be at the top of the list right there. Another place that I think that the NHL should go to, so similar to how they built a rink at Lake Tahoe. Now, obviously, there were no fans.
Yeah.
So what I'm about to propose does require a little bit of, creativity in order to be able to include fans. But Jim, how about Yellowstone National Park with Old Faithful in the backdrop?
I love that. That would be sick. That would be sick.
Instead of the goal horn going off when a goal goes off, and I mean, obviously, there's no way to exactly time it. But instead of a goal horn going off, just think about it. A player scores, and then the Old Faithful geyser erupts into the air.
That would be sick. I mean, we're in the entertainment business, so why not?
Right. So, that obviously they need to find a way to somehow do that. Another temporary rink that I would say, Glacier National Park in Montana. I mean, glaciers, come on, the whole place is ice.
Well, okay. real quick before you finish your monologue here, everybody's always said the NHL for Heritage Classic should be at Lake Louise.
Yeah, actually, I had that as one of my places. And then I'm not going to go through the whole list of places, but Jim, I'm going to name 2 more places, okay? One that's here and one that's abroad, okay?
Okay.
Churchill Downs, the home of the Kentucky Derby.
I like that.
Think about it for a minute. I mean, they already have an NHL arena, home of the New York Islanders at Belmont, right? At Belmont Racetrack. Forget the Preakness. No one cares about the Preakness unless no one ever cares about the Preakness unless someone's going to end up going and winning that, which will send them to a Triple Crown race. Like, no one cares about the Preakness. But the Kentucky Derby, think about it. At Churchill Downs, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, going abroad, Jim, the NFL has had major success going abroad, going to London, going to Brazil, going to Germany. They've gone all over. Major League Baseball had huge success going to London. Now, of course, it was Yankee Red Sox, so that does help. And the amount of offense scored in those games was insane. But, that was huge. Why can't the NHL go abroad to the home of Manchester United or the home of Bayern Munich or the home of Real Madrid? Jim, when the Devils went a few years ago overseas to Nico Hischier's hometown for an exhibition game, the small rink that they played at was packed as if it was a big time soccer match with all the cheers and the chants and the fans going nuts. Put 80 to 100,000 fans in the home of, again, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. Think about that, NHL fans in that type of setting.
That would be crazy. I actually would like that. Soccer stadiums, obviously, they, the players in the European Player Tour went into an Italy game. They were over there. So many options for these outdoor games. I would love to see it anywhere. But again, congrats to Dallas Stars getting their stadium series. We'll find out where 2027 Winter Classic is because that's going to be, wherever they decide to go, that's going to be fun as well. A lot of great things happening on the ice right now, too. I mean, surprises, disappointments, where you want to head. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take it? What direction you want to go in?
Well, I think actually right now we need to, say hello to our guest for the evening, our special guest for the evening, EJ Hradek, the esteemed EJ Hradek from NHL Network. So, Jim, why don't we throw it to a non-existent sponsor break? Come on, fans out there. We need a sponsor somewhere. We'll go talk to EJ about exactly what you just talked about in terms of the surprises to different teams. And then after that, we'll see what's left, right?
We'll spin the wheel, right? I think we'll just spin a wheel.
You know what? Put the wheel behind you and we'll spin it. And that's what we'll do from now on.
All right. Off to the non-existent sponsor break.
Yep. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from our non-existent sponsor break. Once again, I'm Matthew Blittner, co-host Jim Biringer, and our special guest of the evening, NHL Network's EJ Hradek. EJ, welcome to the Blue Line Blast podcast.
Thank you for having me. I am currently at the Garden State Plaza Mall in I guess it's Paramus.
Yes,
and so enjoying the evening here, doing a little mall walking, and but I'm at your service.
Thank you. And we'll see if there's some on-location fans who stop by.
Well, you never know. You never know.
Yeah. So to get things started here, EJ, the big talk around the NHL over the last week has been the rush to get players signed to long-term deals. There were, I believe, 3 players signed to 8-year deals in the last week. Thomas Harley, Logan Cooley, and Martin and Nekis, all 8-year deals for big money. This is very unusual. What's your take on all these teams trying to rush to contract extensions?
Well, I think we have some certainty now, right? Like the teams and the players, the agents know what the cap generally is going to look like for the next couple of years. And there's a handful of good players in this league and on each team that you want to keep and get under wraps. And so I think with that certainty of what the money is going to be and kind of an idea where the market is. And I always believe, guys, that, sign a guy today, because if you sign him tomorrow, it's going to be $10 more. It's always going to be more tomorrow. It's going to be less today. And so you can look at someone like Cooley and see 8 times 10 and be like, wow, that's a lot of money for a guy who hasn't really been in the league very long. But they're betting that he is going to be what they thought he was going to be when they picked him with the 3rd overall pick in the draft. And watched Utah and Tampa. I called that game with Kevin Weeks for the NHL Network Showcase on Sunday, and he's impressive. So I just think teams want to lock up their core players, and with the certainty and the knowledge of where the cap is and what the market looks like for the next couple of years, I think that's why you're seeing it.
And speaking of Utah, I want to go to surprises and maybe some disappointments for you. But coming into the season with the Utah Mammoth, what they had done in the offseason, did you have them pegged as a playoff team this year coming out of the Western Conference?
No, I did not, and I don't know. Maybe they will be. Maybe they won't be. They've had a good start, which is great. Because I'm kind of in the camp with the Utah Mammoth. I got to see it. I mean, guys, the last several years in Arizona and then last year in Utah, like they've had these good young players, and everybody is talking about, this is going to be the year, and it hasn't happened yet. I thought last year, actually, that first year in Utah would be the year. I was old enough to have been in Dallas when the Dallas Stars arrived from Minnesota. The Minnesota North Stars moved there, and they got quite a bump that year, and they played very well, and they were a really strong team that season back. I think it was 93, 94 or 92, 93, one of those years. But I didn't see that from Utah. Now, they've still got some young players that are growing and developing. It looks like they've taken a step when you watch them play in these first handful of games, the first month of the season. Could they make the playoffs? No question. I think they could make the playoffs. I like them adding Vanacek as kind of a stable second goaltender, but I'm going to have to see it. And they're in a tough division, and the schedule is not going to get easy as it goes along. So they got the talent to be there. They could very well be in the playoffs. St. Louis and Minnesota, who were in last year, both are struggling. So maybe those are the spots. But for me, I got to see it. But they certainly have the talent to get there.
Now, EJ, you've repeatedly said, you've got to see it. And that makes sense to a young team like Utah. But I want to flip it over to a team on the opposite end of the spectrum, the Pittsburgh Penguins. We know that over the last 25 years, the Penguins more often than not have been in the playoffs. Obviously, hard times in a few years. But what they're doing right now, and I know the papers are saying, they're turning back the clock for Crosby and Malkin. Are they for real? Because I don't think many people had them pegged as a playoff team, and yet here they are tied atop the Metropolitan Division.
Yeah, tied atop the Eastern Conference, I think. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, when I looked at them coming into the year, the questions I had were, are they going to trade Evgeny Malkin before the deadline? Are they going to can they do something with Karlsson? What's the status of Letang, who's under contract for several more years? And would Sidney Crosby opt to push for a trade at some point? So obviously, I didn't think they were going to be a really competitive group, right? And they got a new first-year coach in Dan Muse. And, I think in that room, guys, I think sometimes we, from the outside, underestimate that these guys all want to win. And no matter how we think it's going to go, in each of those rooms at the start of the season, they see a path for success. And these guys are great players, especially in Pittsburgh, where they have, Hall of Famers. I mean, these guys don't see losing. They always think there's a path to winning. And, they've got a little bit of that us against the world mentality. They've gotten contributions from some unlikely sources. Most importantly, the goaltending duo there of Jari and Shilovs has been really good so far. And so the Penguins are in the mix. Do I think it's sustainable? I'm not so sure. I don't know. But I think that's one of the ones we're going to have to keep watching. But I will tell you this. People haven't made a ton of money betting against Sidney Crosby over the years. So we will see. But that goaltending is going to have to hold up. Jari and Shilovs are going to have to continue to be good. And obviously they're going to have to continue to get those big performances from Crosby, who always gives you a chance, from Malkin. And Malkin's extra motivated this year. He's in the last year of his deal. He wants to still play, and he probably wants to still play in Pittsburgh. But, we'll see how things go. But he's certainly got the motivation to have a good year.
Got to bring you north of the border, obviously, of what's going on in Montreal right now. They're trying to build off from what happened last year. They get into the playoffs, right? They're supposed to compete last year, but, the way things panned out in the Eastern Conference, some teams dipped last year and they were able to get in. What do you make of their hot start? Do you see that being sustainable, considering that the talent that they have on that team is ready and looking like they're ready to take that next step?
Well, I got to think it is sustainable only from the fact that, they made the playoffs last year. I thought they were competitive in that first round series against Washington, despite kind of being, I think, overmatched physically. The Capitals just a bigger, stronger team. And I think that was the difference in that series. But I think they've taken a step this year. They've added some other pieces. They got the full year of Demidov. They've added Dobson. The question, Dobish has been really good at the start, seemingly the number 2 guy. Right now, maybe he's the number 1 guy in goal. Montembeault, I have a lot of belief in, but will he kind of get his act together? Hudson, Caulfield, Suzuki. Suzuki is, that guy is one hell of a number 1 center. I don't think he gets enough attention really quite yet, but they got a lot of good players. They're well coached, good management, a lot of passion in Montreal. So I think it's sustainable. I don't think when I look at it, guys, I just don't think there's a reason to believe that they're not going to be a playoff team this year based on what I saw last year and how they've started this season.
Well, very well said, EJ. Now, you just mentioned about how Suzuki, you don't think he gets enough attention for what he does. On the other end of that, over on Long Island, is it possible that there's not enough attention being paid to Matthew Schaefer, who literally is having a historic start to his NHL career?
Well, he is the first overall pick, and he's playing in the New York market, so there should be plenty of attention. Maybe not getting enough. Hard to say. I know in our NHL Tonight first shift program, we had Matthew Darch on today, the GM, and we talked about him quite a bit. So we gave him a lot of national attention today. He first was the youngest defenseman in NHL history to have a multi-goal game, kind of becoming even younger than Bobby Orr was, who held the previous record. Listen, I'll be full disclosure. I was worried for Matthew Schaefer. He's barely 18 years old. I think Matthew Darch said it today. He's like 10 years away from being in next year's draft. And he only played 17 games last year. I personally would have loved to see him take a year to go play college hockey and develop and get stronger. But that said, through the first 12 games, he's been brilliant. He's got 10 points. He's a plus player, and he plays over 20 minutes a night. So, I guess here we are in early November, November 3rd. Ask me again on February 3rd. Ask me again on, April 3rd. It's a long season. And I'm hoping and pulling for this kid because he's got a great story. He's got an electric personality. He's a magnetic personality. He's somebody that I think fans will really he'll draw people to this game. And that's what we want. My concern is just that he's young, but he's out. He has been off to an outstanding start to his NHL career.
And speaking off to a great start, look, you got to go out west. Obviously, New Jersey, they played Anaheim Ducks on Sunday night. They didn't win. Anaheim, under the new head coach, Joel Quenneville, and the pieces that they've had, Paffer making some moves. Have you seen, and are you looking at the Ducks taking a next step, potentially playoffs, or are we still a little bit away with the talent that they have?
Well, it's a little like Utah, right? It's been a long rebuild there. It's been a long build, and they've added these pieces, right? Carlson, and they traded for Gauthier, and they had a number of young defensemen on that in that group. And this is a talented team. Mason McTavish, even in goal, they have a young goaltender now after moving John Gibson out. So, Joel Quenneville has had a history of success as the head coach in this league. I think. Greg Cronin deserves some credit for. Last year the Anaheim Ducks improved 22 points under Greg Cronin, year over year. That is significant growth for any team. 22 points better. Joel Quenneville becomes available. They decide to make the move for Joel Quenneville, and he is so far so good, right? I think it's 7-3-1 at the start. Carlson has taken another step. I actually talked to Joel the other day, and he said he's a special player, Carlson, and he's been impressed with Beckett Seneke is another guy. Was a high draft pick, a very young player still, playing well. Obviously, I mentioned Cutter Gauthier, and so this is a really talented team. Now, can they make the playoffs over the course of an 82-game season? I guess we're going to see. They've added some veterans. A lot will depend upon how that goaltending holds up, but I think long-term, guys, the Anaheim Ducks are going to be a really good team, and they're going to be a good team for a long while just because they have stockpiled quite a bit of talent due to a lengthy rebuild.
Yeah, look, anytime a team has a collection of young talent that can mature together, it brings, the promise of a bright future. One team that managed to do that successfully is the Dallas Stars, and it seems like they've now been rewarded for that. I can't believe it's 12 minutes into our conversation with you, and we're first now bringing up the news that just broke about an hour ago. The Dallas Stars hosting the 2027 Stadium Series at AT&T Stadium at Jerry's World. EJ, what's your take on that? And I mean, I know you have deep connections to Dallas.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge story for that franchise. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I was down in Dallas, living in Dallas when the North Stars arrived and the Dallas Stars were born. I've been a rink rat my whole life. I play a lot of hockey, and I still play to this stage, but I played a lot more at that time when I was much younger. And I know what the hockey scene was like down there in Dallas, and the Stars came in there, and they refurbished the rinks. They were there. They ended up building rinks. I was fortunate enough to be at the Winter Classic at the Cotton Bowl, and to be there with 75,000 fans for a hockey game. It seemed like that would. If you would have told me in 1993 that was a possibility, I would have just laughed. So it's a terrific thing for that franchise, and it's great for the league to be associated with AT&T Stadium and the Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that's the high end sports franchises in the United States right now, and the NFL is kind of the king of the sports world in the U.S. and to be associated and to have a game there is, I think, is pretty special. So. It was definitely one of those ones when I saw the note like you guys, I was like, wow, it's a pretty big deal. And I know it's a big deal for that franchise and that market. So congratulations to the Dallas Stars, the Jimmy Lights, and the ownership down there and everyone else involved, because that's a big deal.
Last question from me before we wrap this thing up. We go around. We've been talking about the young talent around the league.
Yeah.
And obviously, what Macklin Celebrini is doing, and Connor Bedard's coming into his own this year. The Cole Caulfield's, all that. With the Olympics around the corner, obviously February, a lot of tough decisions for this management group. I had said, in the summer talking with some people, I said, what they would be at the end of that for Team USA and Team Canada. I thought they would be pretty much similar with the makeup, but you got to think Celebrini, Caulfield, and Bedard are putting management groups on notice right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. I think in particular, Celebrini. I mean, I got to see him up close at the Garden when the Sharks were in town to play the Rangers. Sharks won 6-5 in overtime. Celebrini had 5 points. He had 3 goals, 2 assists, but it wasn't that really caught my eye more than anything else. It was just his willingness to be in the battle with JT Miller along the boards and in those dirty areas of the ice. And I saw it again. They played the Detroit Red Wings on Sunday, and the battling he was out there on social media, battling with Mo Sider and getting physical and getting to those areas. This kid he's a dogged competitor, and he's a 200-foot player. And that is something that's significant when you're that young to understand the 200-foot game. I mean, I'd say, when I look at, in this century, we've had 25 years of hockey in this century, and Sidney Crosby has been, I think, the standard bearer in that time. And obviously Connor McDavid is special. But it seems like Celebrini is the one that would take the mantle from Crosby as someone who understands from a very young age the importance of the 200-foot game for centers in this league. And so really, really impressed. We had Doug Armstrong on our show last week. He'll be running Team Canada. I mean, I don't know exactly what he's going to do, but I think he's going to be hard-pressed to leave Macklin Celebrini off his team. And I think, from the U.S. standpoint with Cole Caulfield, I mean, this guy does nothing but score clutch goals. And you're in a short tournament where game could go to overtime. I think we saw that, didn't we, last February?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did.
You want a guy that has, I don't know, people say that clutch gene, call it what you want, but he scores at big moments. And so maybe someone like Cole Caulfield is going to play himself onto Team USA. We will see what they decide to do, but I think both those guys have played well. And if Connor Bedard, I'm not leaving him out. I don't see that he's ready for that jump because Team Canada is so loaded. But boy, he's off to a good start this year too. And he's still a baby. He's still a young player in this league. So some really talented young kids.
Excellent analysis as always, EJ. Again, thank you so much for joining us here on the Blue Line Blast podcast. And we'll be back after a message from our non-distant
Hey,
sponsor,
do you want me to pick you guys anything up here at the mall?
Oh,
hey, surprise us.
yeah, surprise us, definitely.
Okay, all right. Maybe some jewelry.
Hey, you never know. I'll take some jewelry.
Jim's the bling guy.
Yeah, I'm the bling guy. Yo, give me that
All
Jackson Dart bling, you know?
All right. Well, listen, guys, nice to be with you. You guys have a good night.
You too. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from our second non-existent sponsor break of the show. Jim, this non-existent sponsor break might almost become its own sponsor. Like, there has to be a company out there that's called non-existent sponsor, right?
It should be. If there isn't, come on, what are you doing? Let's go.
All right. So, we just had a great chat with the NHL Network's EJ Hradek. We basically went around the league with him.
All the way around the league.
Yeah, I don't think there's a division or an area of the United States or Canada that we didn't touch on. We also talked about the various different contracts that have been signed over the last week. Jim, a thought occurred to me while we were talking to EJ, and I wanted to bring it up with you because we're going to have a discussion here that might blur some lines a little bit in terms of teams maybe not being too pleased with what gets said. We know that the Pittsburgh Penguins are off to a great start. Okay. And Dan Muse, their new head coach, is doing a terrific job with the team, getting a lot out of them. Now, whether it's sustainable or not, as EJ even said, we don't know if it's quite sustainable. But for right now, they seem to be doing pretty well, especially on the defensive end. Jim, wasn't Dan Muse just the defensive assistant for the New York Rangers?
Yeah.
How come they were horrible defensively, but the Penguins are doing very well defensively? And Mike Sullivan, who was supposed to be the guy who could get defenses done, faltered in Pittsburgh, and now supposedly, and now we're seeing that the Rangers' defense has been up and down. So maybe Dan Muse has the magic formula.
I mean, he must have something. Maybe it's MJ's mix from Space Jam. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to be honest. Like, look, I've said this for a couple of years. People can bash me, whatever. I said it the other night. I'll say it again. The Pittsburgh Penguins look a lot more better defensively under Dan Muse than they did under Mike Sullivan the last 3 years. And the Rangers look exactly like the Pittsburgh Penguins do defensively under Mike Sullivan. Yes, they've won 3 straight. So, again, goaltending has a lot to do with it. The goaltenders are masking a lot. While their Rangers analytic numbers put them near the top of the league defensively, the play on the ice says a completely other thing. They're giving up way too many high danger chances. Their goaltenders, again, are bailing them out. Yes, they've won 3 in a row. Yes, they've won some overtime games. But, again, Dan Muse, what he's doing in Pittsburgh, the guys are buying in. Again, EJ said it. It's something, the belief in that room. Guys are motivated, right? Olympic spots are on the line. They know they can play a lot better. But it says something when you can get a guy like Erik Karlsson, who's been not known, let's be honest here, not to play defensive hockey, more offensive guy, to play defensive hockey like he is, says something about the voice in that room. Again, the Rangers, their depth on D is going to be tested throughout the season. They just don't have the talent back there, minus Fox and Gavrikov, to sustain this. Their goalies are bailing them out consistently, and that's what I'm seeing. I don't know what you're seeing on this.
No, I'm seeing the same thing. The Rangers on the back end do not have the depth to do it. I do believe in Braden Schneider. I think that he might be, for lack of a better term, being a little wasted on the third pair. But for whatever reason they want Will Borden and Tossin Soucy to be the second pair, I think that will change. Yes, you do have it. I'm sure money is part of it. But Jim, you actually just said something that sparked something in me that I've wanted to bring up for quite some time, and I haven't done so on this show, on other shows, in writing. But it's an idea that I've toyed with, and you know what? Instead of I'm going to say this is my blast from the blue line this week. Maybe it's not a hot take, but it's certainly an intriguing proposition. Okay, so we know that defensemen, as you were talking about with Erik Karlsson, there are defensemen in the league who play more offense than defense. And now those are obviously the ones who generally win the Norris because voters, seem to think that a lot of points means that you must be very good at your job. But, that's to each and every individual voter. Jim, what if they were to change the terminology of the positions? What if instead of it just being, right wing, left wing, center, and the two defensemen, what if you had, your right wing, left wing, you had your center, you had a mid-icer instead of a midfielder, okay, like they have in soccer, and then you had your defenseman. And the defenseman, yeah, he's still, I'm not changing the rules in terms of who can come into a zone. Like I know in soccer, like there are certain rules in terms of who can enter certain zones. I think that would be a little too complicated for hockey. Also, really wouldn't work in hockey.
No.
But if you had, let's say, a mid-icer who could then, be that offensive type, who maybe he's a defenseman who likes to play up, maybe he's a forward who likes to play back. But he does that, and then the defenseman is a true stay-at-home defenseman.
I could see it. I mean, it's be hard just because, like, we have the Selke Award, right? And, like, that's the best two-way forward, right? That they say best two-way forward. It's usually given to the best two-way center. But there's been wingers that have been nominated for it. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard because we have so many awards, right? And, like, I get the concept of what you're saying because in soccer with the midfielder, he can only go certain spots. In the NHL, it's so tough because a lot of the offense now is generated from the back end, right? Like you see all these young defensemen. We talked about Matthew Schaefer with the Islanders. That first pass out, Lane Hudson in Montreal. Carlson for years when he was with Ottawa, then San Jose. Now, obviously, Cale Makar is one of the best to ever do it. Like what he's doing in Colorado. It's just so hard because there's so much offense now generated from the defense, especially that first pass out, the skating ability to have that. To me, while I get the concept, it could work. I'm just not sure that's something that they would want to adapt.
Well, like I'm saying, maybe you don't have it where there's certain zones that they can or can't go into. Maybe you just classify the player as, okay, mid-icer, instead of calling them a defenseman. You literally just have it, they can still go to whichever zone, but that way okay, well, they're the mid-icer. It's their job to generate offense while still getting back. And whoever you have lined up as your actual, designated defenseman, their role is to just, stay back. You're still going to generate your offense from the back end because of the mid-icer.
Yeah.
You always have to have a stay-at-home defenseman anyway, or someone who can get back, because someone's got to get back there. Otherwise, the goalie's going to be facing a complete,
nobody. So, yeah, it's gonna be he's gonna be out to lunch, and there's gonna be guys going for free skates, and he's gonna be left out to dry.
Right. So I'm not saying that it changes the technical play. I'm just saying that it changes the designation of what the player is classified as.
I mean, like I said, I could see it. So one defenseman, the mid-icer, everybody else is the same. 5-4. I mean, it's something. It's different. I like the innovation. Maybe it helps with these awards that we do because Norris, we know who it goes to because everybody's talking about, we need a defensive defenseman award. We have too many awards as it is. But again, Jacob Slavin doesn't get any recognition for being one of the best defensive defensemen in the league. And it's always the same guys winning the Norris. I mean, maybe it's something you have to think about. But again, I don't know. I mean, we know these guys go back and forth so much. So again, I like the idea. I just don't know how well it would be utilized.
Well, think about it from this standpoint. Okay, I'm going to use two examples here. One, Brent Burns, when he was younger, okay, because he doesn't really do it so much anymore. Or Dustin Byfuglien, when he was playing.
Big buff.
Occasionally, they would suit up as a forward on the fourth line, and, sometimes they would suit up as a defenseman.
Right.
Instead of having to choose one or the other, you have your mid-icer. And then what really could help teams lean this way, it could be the version of the Shohei Ohtani rule that they have in baseball. So you're not allowed to carry, I think it's more than 13 pitchers in baseball is the current mark. But Shohei is a pitcher, but he's the 14th pitcher. But it's because he has a two-way designation. So, now there's not really a limit in the NHL where they say, oh, well, you can't carry 15 forwards and you can, or you can't carry 9 defensemen. Teams just generally always, carry 13 and 7 roughly.
Right.
Because let's say a forward goes down, you still have your 12 healthy forwards, or a defenseman goes down, you still
Right.
have 6 healthy defensemen. But if you were to have the mid-icer, now, if the NHL were to say, oh, okay, well, you can only have, 13 forwards, or you can only have 7 defensemen. Now you have your mid-icer. Let's say you have 2 mid-icers. They don't count against either the forward count or the defenseman count, and maybe you start seeing some change in roster construction.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, that would definitely be helpful because then and then the crazy thing would be now you got to add a category for this fantasy hockey mid-icer, because it's a utility player. But again, that's way down the road. But again, I could see it. There's a possibility there. I mean, I like it. It's innovative. It's different. Will it happen? No, but
The
I
league
like
doesn't change.
the league doesn't change, so doesn't matter. But I like the concept
Hey,
because
this is what we bring you here. As you said, we're in the entertainment business.
entertainment business, baby. We got to bring you the entertainment. We got to bring you something because, right? Like you look at it. This is why it goes back to the Colorado thing with Dallas when we're going to talk a stadium series. You have to ice your best matchups for people to watch it. And if you change something up, remember all those years with Fox. Everybody, I hear all the people all the time. When I was down in Florida, people driving me around. Hey, why did they get rid of the glow puck? I love that thing. I'm like, it's a Fox thing. They can't just do it. Fox owns the rights to that thing. I get it.
Some people are having some selective memory on.
Yeah,
specifically.
I mean, look, I always loved the robot intro on Fox. That was great. The puck, well, hit or miss on it, but I will say the action on the ice has been really, really good, as we've discussed with EJ this year, Matthew, because I don't remember a time where there's been this much parity at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, no, look, parity is should be called the NPL, National Parity League.
Yeah.
And I know Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred's going to hear that and say, maybe we should be we should be Major League Parity, MLP instead of MLB. So that's what he wants.
No.
The NFL's got a lot of parity right now, actually, if you look at it, but I don't think Roger Goodell necessarily wants that. The football doesn't want parity.
No, they want to be like the NBA, super teams.
Yeah, so that's story for another day. But Jim, I think we've gone around the league pretty well tonight.
We have actually. We've gone around the league really well tonight. Though I wanna ask you this one thing because we've talked about contracts, right? We've talked about Natchez, we've talked about Cooley, we've talked about Harley. Those guys getting their money early, right? And I just want to bring you with this one.
Hold on. If you're angling for a raise or a contract extension, the answer is no.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be the answer already, so I didn't bother bringing it up. I already talked to management about that. They said no. But I was going to say this. We saw what those guys did for the market, right? And we know Kempe's coming along, Tuck, all those guys. But we got to mention around here real quick as we finish this up. Jacob Markstrom gets the 2-year extension from the Devils, $6 million AAV. We know Sergei Bobrovsky is a UFA this year as well. He's been eligible to sign an extension with Florida Panthers. Obviously, this is a great move by New Jersey, but me personally, I think this is what they had to do. Stay in the win now mode. You can't. This is what Tom Fitzgerald wants. Got 2 good guys. You have $7.8 million in your goaltending. Question I have for you, and I've been wondering this: is this contract by Markstrom set the market now for a team like Florida with Bobrovsky and saying, "Hey, you're 38 years old, 2-year deal gets you to 40."
From a length standpoint, I'll say it helps give. Maybe it doesn't set the market, but it helps set a decent precedent. From an AAV, no, it's not going to help set the market or set a precedent. Because if you look at their careers, Jacob Markstrom, yes, he's the number 1 goalie. He was the number 1 caliber. He's never really been a true undisputed number 1. Like, yeah, he's a number 1 on teams, but he's not he's not an A number one. He's sort of like the 1A, or like a 1 AAA type of guy. You're not going to play him 65 games. Most goalies won't play 65 games.
Not anymore.
He was never the type who, you ride him 65 games or something like that, and you live with it. Like, you always knew, okay, yeah, we've got Jacob Markstrom, but you live with the lows because his highs are pretty good. He's going to be in the middle a lot. Maybe he's going to be like an upper mid-card type, going to like WWE type. Maybe he's not the main event guy, but he's better than the mid-card. He's an upper mid-carder.
So he's challenged for the IC title. I got it. All right.
So, like, that's Markstrom. But Bobrovsky's a multi-time Vezina winner, a multi-time Stanley Cup champion. Yeah, he's older, but I think you have to consider him as more of like, I don't want to say legacy player, but you have to consider him almost as more of like, all right, the market is going to be different for him. Yeah, you probably, try for 2 years. Maybe he wants less. Maybe he's willing to take less than the $6 million in because he wants to help out with the cap. Maybe he says, listen, I'm at 10.5 right now. Why do I want to take a 4.5 pay cut? Like, maybe I'll meet you in the middle. I'll meet you at 8 or something like that. I think Markstrom gives a decent, starting point. Like, obviously, if you're a main event player, you're not going to all of a sudden take a contract for a jobber.
No, you're not taking jobber type. No, absolutely not.
Unless you just really want to be team friendly.
No.
But you're probably not. They're probably not equal comparables with each other.
No, that's fair because I think the way you just mentioned it, right? Top tier, top money, top main event guys like Panarin. I don't think he's going to take $1 less. That's why I think he's going to go to free agency. I just think he just wants the dollars and where he can go, right? That's why we're seeing with Kempe, right? Like, how come this thing isn't getting done? He maybe views himself as a main event type guy. It's going to be interesting because, again, free agency, we always look forward to it. Maybe the trade deadline, maybe the trades this year will be where everything really happens because I'm going to be honest, free agency, what we saw last year, going to become the norm. It's just everybody's just going to stay at home, more dollars. Everybody's going to keep their own guys.
Yeah, look, free agency as we knew it might not exist very much longer. Not to say that players won't still go to free agency. They will. So don't get me confused. Yeah. Don't get confused out there. But with players now signing long-term deals, and again, it's because we know that it's because the cap is going up exponentially over the next couple of years. Once this growth period is over, I'm sure the cap will even out a little bit more in terms of its growth. It'll be more steady than exponential. But I agree with you. I don't see free agency being so exciting in the NHL, at least for the next handful of years. I mean, who's going to market? As you just said, Artemi Panarin's going to be the number one guy. At 34 years old.
Yeah.
Like, if this was Panarin at 28 hitting the market, okay, yeah, everyone's going to be lining up for it. Who's lining? Yeah, there might be a few teams lining up for Panarin at 34 years old. Comes with his baggage, obviously, as we've discussed. He has, he should still be a fairly productive guy, but he's not going to drive play on his own line anymore. You're already seeing that. Does he drop down to be, let's say, a 60-point guy? Hey, look, 60 points is 60 points.
60 points is 60 points. I mean, look what Tavares is doing at his age right now. So.
I don't see free agency being what it once was, at least not during the exponential growth period.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But, I mean, we hit it all tonight. I mean, we touched them all, ran the bases. I think we did it all, right? I mean, we
touched them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life, and it still won't because the Toronto Blue Jays, teams in Toronto still don't know how to win.
They don't, right? Game 7, it's a curse. But, guys, Blue Line Blast Podcast, EJ Hradek, NHL Network, great guest having on. Thank him again. We went around the league. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Jim Biringer, Matthew Blittner. Guys, take care.